Welcome back to Myth Busting, the myths that disability insurance policyholders believe about ERISA and disability insurance, and the truth. Today, I'm going to talk about if the disability insurance company sends you what's called an activity of daily living form to complete, it's because they're sincerely, genuinely interested in how your disabling symptoms impact what you do every day and why you should be paid your benefits immediately. So what is that activity of daily living form? What mistakes can you make? And how does the disability carrier use these forms to deny a claim? The disability carrier is going to ask you to complete an activity of daily living form that's going to ask you to document what you're physically capable of doing. And rarely, quite frankly, do they ask you from a psychiatric standpoint whether you're having any problems with depression or anxiety, and rarely do they ask any questions about social behavioral issues. In other words, do you have some cognitive issues? Are you having difficulty concentrating? Are you having difficulty maintaining pace of production? And of course, that activity daily living form rarely asks any relevant questions that are related to your disabling medical condition. It's a generic form. So that's the problem. The questions are open-ended and generic. They may ask you questions about, do you care for yourself? Can you bathe yourself? Can you dress yourself? Do you need assistance getting in and out of the tub? Meals, do you prepare meals? Do you cook a 5-course meal or do you just microwave stuff? What kind of meals do you make? In other words, is it something that's easy to prepare, something that's complex to prepare? Do you need assistance? How do you care for your house? Do you live in the Queen's castle and you vacuum it and clean every day and dust like crazy? Or do you have difficulty just wiping off your kitchen sink or dusting your living room or just sweeping up? They also may ask you questions about work-related activities. Now, you're probably not working at this point, and so you're kind of wondering, well, why are they asking these questions? But the issue is going to be, do you have difficulty, whatever that word means, doing any of the following on a sustained basis, whatever that means? So, do you have difficulty sitting, standing, walking, crouching, squatting, remembering, lifting, pushing, pulling, reaching, grasping, handling, and fingering? So that series of questions doesn't ask or define the term serious difficulty. Does that mean that if you did it once, you'd be in bed the rest of the day? Or does that mean that you can do it 20 times a day and you can do it 10 minutes at a time? Why is that important? Because this is an example of one of these blasted open-ended questions that can lead to you exaggerating your symptoms and your functionality in an effort to impress the carrier with the extent of your disability. And so I like my clients, as I'll talk about later, to give very specific answers to these generic questions. So what are the mistakes that you can make in completing the form? Well, the number one mistake that you can make is just filling it out without thinking about it. The second mistake that you can make is by not looking at your medical records to see what your doctor has said, if anything, about your functionality and your activities of daily living. Did you report to your doctor, for example, that you took a family cruise and went on the little cruise trips after the boat docked in the harbor, or you went to the Disney's private island on their yacht? The next mistake that you can make in filling out the form is not looking at what your medical records have said about your symptoms and your complaints, because you want to be consistent with whatever it is your doctors have reported that you're saying to them about your activities of daily living or your symptomatology. The other mistake that you can make in filling out this form is not looking at your social media postings or that of your family, because I assure you that as part of the application process, they are going to look at social media postings. And if you say that you can't stand on your feet more than 15 minutes and they've got pictures of you that your best friend posted at a party going at it, dancing like a mad woman or a madman, then the carrier's going to be saying, I think that there is a problem with what the person is saying and what the doctor is saying and what it is they're doing. And among the other mistakes that you can make that will, I think, set up surveillance is this is reporting things that you are doing, but not reporting them accurately. So in other words, you might say, I don't drive, but then in a later section in the form, they ask what it is you do with your children, and you say, I drive them to school. Well, that's one, inconsistent, but two, you need to explain what difficulties you might have driving, or that it might be just 5 minutes away from your house. So to me, the activity of daily living form is a generic, open-ended form that is just ripe for misrepresentation on your part, exaggeration, or allows the carrier to draw all sorts of crazy conclusions about your level of functionality based on what you put on the form. Now, I have written a book, as I've said, called The 23 Mistakes That You Can Make in Completing Your Activity of Daily Living Form, and I've only talked about 5 of those mistakes. You can get that guide by contacting my office at 727-894-3188. And one of the things that you need to understand when you're filling out the form is that, in my view, it should be reviewed by someone such as myself, because there are all sorts of weasel words that people will use in filling out these forms that are triggers to disability carriers. And one of those weasel words is using the word never. I tell my clients, never use never. Always tell the truth about what you're doing, and make sure you're talking about good days and bad days, where there are days that you can do more and days that you can't. Because I know that your activity level is probably dependent on your pain and your medication. So I always want to look at these activity of daily living forms to see consistency between what you're telling your physician you're doing, what your doctor has recorded, and that you're not using weasel words or inconsistency within the context of the activity of daily living form. So lots of traps, and I've got a guide for you that will help you fill out the form. So let's take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to continue on how disability carriers use the forms to deny a claim.
Are you a professional with questions about your individual disability policy? You need the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. This book gives you a comprehensive understanding of your disability policy, with tips and to-dos regarding your disability application that will assist you in submitting a winning disability application. This is one you won't want to miss. For the next 24 hours, we are giving away free copies of the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. Order yours today at disabilityclaimsforprofessionals.com.
So welcome back. Let's continue our discussion about disability carriers' use of activity of daily living forms and how they'll use them to deny your claim. So as I said, they're going to look for inconsistencies. They're going to look for exaggeration. They're going to use that activity of daily living forms to put surveillance on you. They're going to use it to set up a gotcha, exaggerating defense. And what they actually might do with that surveillance is they might approach you and ask to take a statement from you that they want to do at your home. And when they show you that film, they'll confront you and say, well, isn't it true that you exaggerated this? And isn't it true you really do want to withdraw your claim because you're committing fraud? And the other thing that they will do is they will take your ADL form to their peer review doctor and have their peer review doctor call your doctor and say, look, aren't you relying on what the patient's telling you? Did you know that on this form they said that they could do this and that? But by the way, on their social media account, they're doing something completely different. or we've got surveillance of them doing something they said that they couldn't do and something they said to you that they couldn't do. So, doctor, would you agree that the patient can work? And that's how the disability carrier is going to use the ADL form to either deny your claim or terminate your benefits. So the truth is that the ADL form is a setup for a claims denial or a claims termination. Next week, I'm going to take on myth number 6. My disability policy will provide me with financial security, and the carrier can't reduce my benefits by the receipt of Social Security disability benefits. In my next segment, I'm going to tell you the story of a senior business analyst with MECFS who was awarded their own occupation LTD benefits by a federal judge who got an MECFS claim and the nature of the disease. Stay tuned.